Hi there, welcome to the Travel Companion podcast. Special guest today is Dane Gobin. Dane is in Guyana. Conversation is via Skype, and Dane is CEO of the Iwokrama International Centre. As you know, Guyana has one of the few remaining pristine rainforests left in the world. And what we're dealing with here is a super smart guy with extraordinary plans to make the rainforest financially self-sufficient. It was an honor to have him as guest on the podcast. You can find links on his projects at iwokrama.org and iwokramariverlodge.com. If you would like to support the podcast itself, go to our website, that's podcasts.earth. And without further ado, here is the podcast with Dane in Guyana. Starting the podcast, we're here today with Dane Gobin, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Iwokrama International Centre. Dane, welcome.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Okay, what is the weather like there in Guyana?
It's nice. As you know, we have general elections on Monday.
Monday, exciting.
Yes, so it's the first time that we have elections since oil has come out of the ground. So it looks to be quite interesting.
Brilliant. Well, it has been snowing here in London, so I wish I was there. That's all I can say.
You're a nice 33 degrees here now.
Wow, that's amazing. That sounds really, really good. But maybe sometimes it's too much, or?
Oh, yes. Especially if you get into the rainforest, the heat is not a problem, but the humidity is a killer. The humidity really gets to you, especially in the rainforest where lots of the wind and breeze doesn't pass through.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're a good 34, 35 degrees all year round.
Wow. I personally think it's amazing. But, once you're there, maybe you'd feel totally different about that. So just quick introduction from the center, the Iwokrama International Centre in Guyana. I understand that it was established in 1996 under a joint mandate from the government of Guyana and the Commonwealth Secretariat to manage the forest, which is a unique reserve of 371,000 hectares of rainforest. And this will be done in a manner that will lead to lasting ecological, economical, and social benefits, and not only for the people of Guyana, but also for the world in general. This comes straight from your website. I'm sure that is still correct, Don.
But just a point of note that, in fact, the business of Iwokrama started in 1989.
1989. Yep.
Yes, Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. When then President Hoyt offered the Iwokrama Forest to the international community for work in climate change and sustainable development. Yes, we're 30 years old last year.
Oh, congratulations! That's like a milestone as well.
Yes, a big milestone.
Big milestone. And how long have you been there yourself, if I may ask? How many years?
Too long. 2002, I joined Iwokrama as business development manager because Iwokrama was about doing the bioinventories to see really how you could value rainforests and really empirical evidence.
Yeah.
And then once we got that inventory, the next step was to actually then try to monetize that.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at sustainable forestry. So I joined the center as business development manager, tourism, ecosystem services, and then made my way through program support into finance, and then finally CEO in 2002.
And I understand, as you mentioned already, the mission of the center is to promote conservation and the sustainable and equitable use of tropical rainforest in a manner that will lead to lasting ecological, economical, and social benefits. And this will be done by research, training, and development. And what is driving you, if I may ask, as CEO?
Right. So I come from a business family since the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's in business. So I always wanted every few years to get out there and try something new.
Yeah.
At least further your studies or your work experience. So Iwokrama posed an interesting opportunity where you could actually try to tailor make or to show that you can actually put straight and strict economic principles into managing a rainforest.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably the first CEO that has no background in science. I have an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
But I bring the business vision to rainforest because, as you know, Peter, unless there's financial sustainability, nothing else could be sustainable. The forest wouldn't be sustainable. The ecosystems wouldn't be sustainable. So first and foremost is economic viability, and that's what drew me to Iwokrama. How can I use a straight business model, where presumably profit is the motive, and then look at other bottom lines. So yes, you look at the financial bottom line, but then you look at ecological preservation as another bottom line, and social balance as well. So I ended up trying Iwokrama in 2002, and here we are today.
So I understand that the research is really coming down to testing a truly sustainable forest. You mentioned yourself already, it has to be profitable, which I think is very important because obviously it has been working for you so far, and that model can be used all over the world in other rainforests as well and preserve the rainforest. Do I see that in the right way, or?
Yes, it is. So really, I mean, you just read out the mission of Iwokrama direct from the ANG, but it really and very simply put, our work involves in two broad areas. One is to show that you could use the forest without losing it. First, and second is to show that forests are worth more alive than dead. And to do that now, Peter, unfortunately, the world is caught up in this rhetoric, and I keep saying that I love this word commitment and pledge. Those are beautiful words, and the international community meets every so often at these very large meetings that generate more carbon than they're worth, and they pledge hundreds of millions of dollars. And they meet every 5 years, and they pledge more hundreds of millions of dollars. And in the meantime, we are now a little part of the world trying to save 1 million acres and struggling to do so. So, while the international community has actually recognized the value of rainforests, they don't appreciate it, if you know what I mean, for want of a better word. So our work here is through empirical evidence. So, we don't want to hear about the rainforest generates these ecosystem services. So there's carbon, there's hydrology, there's nutrient cycling, there's pollination, tourism as a value. But unless we as rainforest managers and owners, for that matter, Guyana now on a larger scale, unless we could show that these forests have value, then there would be no need to save a forest. And too many times I've gone to international meetings, and you meet the top conservationists in the world, the scientists with double doctorates and all of these people, but the people who are not in the room are the guys with the checkbooks.
Right.
Unless you could get the guy on Wall Street to say, I value a piece of rainforest, everything else will be talk. And just to give you a quick example, if you wanted a loan and you went into the bank and you presented your title or your deed or your transport or whatever it is, a bank, they would lend you money and use that as collateral. We speak about the value, we speak about the rainforest as being a global air conditioning. Really sustains human life. It provides all of these wonderful services, pollination for agriculture, hydrology, the air we breathe, the recycling of carbon, taking all of these things. But you think you could go in, and that's a big challenge. You think I could go into a bank on Wall Street and say, hey, I have 1 million acres of rainforest. And it has all of these very nice values, sustaining humankind. Can I have a loan?
They say no to you?
They will say no. And that's because they don't recognize the value. And they don't recognize the value because there's no empirical evidence to suggest that this forest is worth $100 million a hectare or 200 million. So what we are trying to do is, the first thing to do is to really establish value. So why is this piece of rainforest value? And the way to do it is to explore all the values in rainforest. So there are medicinal plants, there's tourism, there's mining, there's sustainable forestry, there's nutrient cycling, there's pollination. So bees from the rainforest perhaps pollinate soy farms in Brazil. I mean, I don't know. But these are the kinds of things that we need to do. So because, we talk so much about it and nobody puts figures to these things. The only probably best studied ecosystem service value is carbon.
Yeah.
And still those markets are not well regulated, and they're up and down. I mean, carbon on average, I think, is about $7 to $10 a ton.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it really comes down to ability to pay. So, one of the things we're doing here and the main thing is to show that these values. Now, if I could show somebody that if you preserve this forest, it's actually better and you accrue more value from it than digging out the gold from it.
Yeah.
There's an option, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And if I went to them and I said, look, if you pull out a few stems from this forest and you convert it into high value furniture, then you don't need to clear fell this whole hectare. You could just pull out a few mature stems that would fall anyway, and that would emit carbon anyway.
Yep.
And you could actually turn it into high value products that would sell for thousands of dollars a cubic meter. So those are the kinds, because this whole movement of conservation is not sustainable and protection.
Why do you say that? Because it costs money.
The thing is, well, first of all, you have to be rich to protect.
Yeah.
Right? Why would someone? And if you look at the models of protection, the financial model for protection is we go and collect cash from somebody, and we pay to protect the forest. My model of protection is here. Let's show the forest has value, and then use it as an investment.
Right.
So that people could invest in the forest. So I'm trying hard to move Iwokrama away from a cap in a hand to a donor.
Yeah.
A viable business targeting an investor.
That's brilliant. And you're doing it in a sustainable way, sustainable harvesting, I believe, correct? Or...
Exactly. Sustainable forest. We were the first in Guyana to get the FSC certificate. Our wood goes as far as Denmark and Sweden now. Next steps we're looking at is branding. So I want the Iwokrama logo and a little story behind the wood. So when you walk into the floor, a floor of anywhere, and the guy could talk about the wood. The guy could say, look, this is wood from the Iwokrama forest. It's FSC certified, meaning it follows environmental, social, and economic best practices. Local communities are involved. A lot of capacity was built in them. We only did 3 stems per hectare.
Yeah.
Communities got livelihoods from this, and the forest is still there. So that's the kind of story I'm actually developing, and then introducing a line of merchandise again.
And how long will it take before you are there? Because from what I understand at the moment, it is sustainable tourism, sustainable harvesting, training, merchandise, but about over 1/3 still comes from grants, from what I understand. So you want to change that part? Is that correct, or?
That's very correct.
Okay.
So, Peter, I also don't firmly believe that that rainforest managers, unless you get into very higher end rainforests, would ever be truly sustainable or financially sustainable. Because at some point in time you will have to try to quantify an intangible. And we could do all the empirical work about showing that a rainforest is a global air conditioner that recycles air so that humans could breathe.
Yeah.
I think that's established anyway.
It is, yeah.
Somebody has to say, well, look, we just want to take care of the forest just because we think the forest is valuable, and forget the empirical evidence. But if we had, say, 70% of our budget coming from value-added activities. So I'm hoping within the next 3 years, one of the things that I want to launch, and I'm going to let the cat out of the bag now, is I want to launch a special sponsor an acre program at Iwokrama to really have Guyanese and the international community get involved for a very measly sum. So I'm thinking of between $15 to $25 a year. You can actually get your own piece of rainforest. We will GPS map it. We will generate a report. We will tell you what's in your hectare, what you do, and the contributions it has made towards absorbing carbon, all of that stuff. And if I get that, from the initial figures, that could almost give me 3 times as much as I need in core operating costs.
Mm-hmm.
And that to launch this year.
That is brilliant. That's a very good idea. As a matter of fact, they're doing that with a lot of in a lot of other organizations as well. Like, for example, in zoos, and I think I spoke about that in another podcast. In South Africa, they have all the animals sponsored by corporations.
Exactly.
So that's yeah.
And then what I would like to do is, I'm glad you brought it up, is I'd like to go because, we have this huge oil find, recognized as one of the largest oil finds in the world. I think the 6th largest oil find in the world.
Yeah.
My plan now is to take this Swanson acre and go to the big boys, the Exxons and Chevron and Shell and so on, and says, here, why don't you guys buy a few thousand acres and sponsor it for a school in Guyana?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So you can do that. But, I must add that we've been getting a lot of support. Our science program has been paid for by Exxon.
Yeah.
And, they're making their contributions, and we've ring-fenced it to science. Mm-hmm. So they funded the development of our new 5-year science plan in 2018. They've actually pitched in 2018, 19, and this year to help jumpstart it. So we've had very good corporate partners as well as the international community. The usual WWF, UNDP, GIZ. Everybody's been contributing, but there's a bit of donor fatigue now. And quite frankly, Peter,
why do you think that is? Why do you think there's a donor fatigue?
The priorities in the world have been changing. So think about it. The environment is nice, it's good, it's healthy. But then there's a huge problem with poverty.
Yeah.
There's a huge problem with terrorism.
Yeah.
Look at health issues now with this coronavirus, right? Look at the natural disasters. And the irony of that is that actually the rainforest help capture some of the carbon, which causes global warming, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So, but the priorities have changed. And I think not wrongfully.
Okay.
I remember, 15 years ago, 18 years ago, a big grant for Iwokrama was 2-3 million euros or US dollars.
Yeah.
Today, a big grant for us is $500,000.
Right. That seems to have diminished quite a bit indeed. Yeah.
Exactly. And many of the traditional donors now have actually decided, the multilaterals are still lending, but many of the traditional bilaterals have actually curtailed overseas spending and are spending it in country because, as I mentioned, natural disasters, terrorism, poverty alleviation, climate change.
Yeah.
These are all major priorities now that actually are going to allow funds to shift more in that favor, which again brings me to my point that, we really have to wean ourselves, rainforest managers have to wean ourselves and become a little more creative in how we earn our core funding.
And you're doing it absolutely in the right way, I must say. But I think it's very strange that in this time when there's so much criticism on society to really save the rainforest, to do something about the environment, that corporations, big corporations, don't really, put a hand in their pockets and say, we're going to make a stand and we want to make sure that the rainforest of Guyana, one of the greenest countries in the world, when I understand, should be saved. And I understand that Iwokrama is only 2% of Guyana rainforest. That is correct, right?
Yes, exactly. 2% of the Guyana rainforest. I think the forest cover in Guyana is about 18.4 million hectares.
Wow. And
that's 2% of the forest. So imagine an oil-producing nation still has 82% forest cover.
Yeah, obviously this is the first year that actually oil is actually going to be, is going to be exported, and
yes,
I'm sure that a lot of money will come in from that. Do you think that part of that money will be used for the preservation of the rainforest?
I do believe that. One of the good things with Iwokrama is that in our 30-year history, we have had support from all successive governments. Mm-hmm. All successive governments, Iwokrama has been a golden child for them. Yep. They've been very supportive. The recent, prior to 2015, President Barra Jagdeo, who is known internationally, for his work in the environment, mm-hmm. he came out to the low carbon development strategy. And then in more recent times, President
David Granger,
who I must say is really, really committed to maintaining a very, very strict balance with Guyana's rainforest and its new form resource. He is just commented. In fact, June last year, they completed the Green State Development Strategy.
Mm-hmm. What is that?
So that's a strategy that builds on the low carbon strategy. And essentially it talks about, even though you have this huge oil reserve, it still talks about green development. So it talks about renewable energy, the pillars of renewable energy, about green development, about buildings that are designed to use solar energy. So despite the oil, everybody realizes that oil is a finite. And President Granger has actually insisted that, look, we will continue with our agriculture, we'll continue with conservation. Yes, there will be pressures on our rainforest for development.
Yeah.
And he's expecting Iwokrama to take the lead in developing these models. Mm-hmm. So that, yes, oil, you could bring your oil money, you could park it. I mean, Norway has an excellent model for a sovereign wealth fund. I think it's just touched like $1 trillion.
Okay.
And the irony of that is, I heard some months ago, they divested that fund from any oil stocks.
So what does that mean, if I may ask?
So basically what you do, these investment funds, the sovereign wealth fund, you put your oil profits inside, and then the fund managers invest those profits so they can grow. Mm-hmm. So, and you invest in all kinds of, you balance your portfolio with minerals and technology and so on. Mm-hmm. And I understood that they now have no fund and no money invested in the oil sectors in the world. So think about it, a country that actually built that fund from oil, yep, that is not invested in oil anymore. And that's quite a remarkable achievement.
That is remarkable indeed. But it all sounds very positive, though. It sounds like the government is totally behind Guyana being as sustainable as possible.
1,000%. I mean, I could speak for President Granger when I say he's 1,000% committed to a green Guyana.
Yep.
And to make sure that, and I mean, obviously he's aware as a president that there are pressures of development, but there's also a way of balancing it. We still need infrastructure, we still need schools and hospitals, yep, and telecommunications and infrastructure like roads and bridges and these things. But there's developing also a very strict mechanism for the managing these monies. In fact, I have no doubt that any successive government, regardless of what happens, I think we have had very mature and sensible presidents and administrations that have recognized that oil is a finite resource and that the environment is not. If you take care of the environment, it'll take care of you.
Brilliant. So you think nothing will change on Monday?
Oh, nothing at all. Nothing at all. I've been here for two governments. Yeah. But both fully committed to green development.
Great. And do you think that the project that you're doing right there has it already an effect on the other 98% of rainforest in Guyana? Do you think that's
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember, some years ago, I think it was in 2008, that the government of Guyana, mm-hmm, and the government of Norway did an agreement. It essentially was a carbon agreement where the government of Norway agreed to pay Guyana $250 million over 5 years, providing deforestation was kept at a very minimal rate. Yep. And that in itself actually forced government, who was still practicing good practices, to even increase the monitoring of our forests in terms to monitor deforestation. So Guyana has a very solid monitoring system for its forests, mm-hmm, for its carbon, to look at how forests, and government has actually, over the last few years, have become, you might say, draconian in repossessing forests from errant operators who haven't used it for the purposes or parked it or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, I'm convinced, even with the with oil and big money in the horizon, yep, government is still employing a very, very strict monitoring regime.
Right. And if you have three large projects there, I understand, in your research, and one of the projects is a program that's focused on from what I read, is capacity building to support national initiatives in reducing deforestation and degradation in Guyana. Now, in Brazil, 50%, from what I understand, of the rainforest there is protected under federal law. So that means that 50% is totally protected. What is the percentage in Guyana? Do you know? Or?
In Guyana, yes. In Guyana, at the moment, I believe we're close to about 17%. But
Yeah.
let me just qualify that. So about 17 to 20% of Guyana are regulated as protected areas.
Okay.
But if you look at the international, I think IUCN definition of protection, there are actually degrees of protection from being fully ring fenced to sustainable forest management and sustainable development. So I would argue that the whole of Guyana, on all of Guyana's forests, government does not allow any clear felling except in the occasion of mining.
Yep.
But it's very controlled, very well monitored, and very, very well policed. And the thing is, these are figures, Peter. I mean, while you will be saying there's 50%,
yeah,
I'm sure there's major encroachment in those areas. I'm sure, pretty sure,
right,
that there's major encroachment. But Guyana now, I mean, we have monitoring, we have rangers. The Forestry Commission is out there all the time checking. They use radar and technology to map stuff out and so on. So I would say that, and it goes back to the same thing where, you could say this whole area is protected and really, in fact, it's not. Or you could use an entire country and say, look, we're going to pursue sustainable forestry management practices across the whole forest cover.
Okay, that sounds very good. I understand that you have as patron as well His Royal Highness Prince of Wales, who has been around a number of times and he's a patron again since a couple of years ago. You also had Prince Harry come by as well in 2016. So that you got quite a lot of people that are really behind the project that you're doing there, right?
Yes, so we had Prince last year, June, Prince Charles, Royal Highness Prince Charles, he renewed his patronage for an additional 5 years.
All right.
So I think last year in November, I met his office because as patron, we need to present Iwokrama's work and to his office.
Okay.
And then in 2016, I think it was, or 17, Prince Harry visited us in December. And he actually went to the program site. We have the Commonwealth Secretary General behind us, and we just had the recently retired African, Caribbean, and Pacific Secretary General, Dr. Gomes, formally behind us. So, we're getting a little recognition, and a lot of people at that level have recognized the good work that we're doing.
Fantastic. And now there's a lot of articles here. The last question, really, a lot of articles here in the UK about, obviously, about oil, about the rainforest, and about sustainability in Guyana. And they say, well, you don't really need a crystal ball to predict big changes in Guyana. From what I hear from you, you're very positive, though, about what's going to happen.
So, Peter, look, I mean, as rainforest managers, you and I talk to several rainforest managers all over at these international meetings you go to. And, this development scares them. The reality of life will be that there will be change. The big challenge is that people don't manage change. Change manages people. So what we could do, we could sit in Guyana and we could say, look, there's oil out there and this will create. And that's where a lot of the furor is going and a lot of the rhetoric is going. That, Guyana wouldn't be able to manage it, and, the Dutch disease and all of these things. The reality of the situation is that we need the oil.
Yeah.
It's a resource. And, an analogy to this is the road. So when we have a road that is straight through the Iwokrama forest, and there's a big hue and cry, you have a road in a protected area, blah, blah, blah. And so what we did is we did a very thorough road management and road corridor management plan. So if you plan for things, so yes, you're going to have oil here's the plan. Yes, you're putting a road through the forest. There'll be challenges with roadkill. There'll be challenges with viewing animals. There'll be social challenges. There'll be an increase in theft and security and all of these things. But these things, Peter, are going to happen. We can't sit here and, we could sit here and we could say, oh, well, and then I suppose that Nigeria and Angola went through the same thing. And, we can have the noblest of thoughts. And we could say that, yeah, well, we don't want the oil, let's car kick it and leave it. But a road will go through a rainforest, right? And you could sit and you could not want it. Or you could plan for it so that it doesn't affect you. And I'm not talking, I don't believe there's sustainability in mining, for example. What I believe in is low impact mining. I know there's sustainability in forestry because on a 60-year cycle, you can in fact actually...
How many years cycle? Sorry, I did not hear that.
60. Every 60 years.
Okay.
Yeah, every 60 years, the forest will rejuvenate itself. Once you remove the topsoil in mining, that becomes progressively different. But then it creates an opportunity for reforestation, right? And it looks at creating, you could start off plantation forests, which could drive a paper industry. So, you got to look at the positive things. And development will not wait. The big missing area is management. And people don't concentrate. Forest managers complain, but they don't spend enough time on managing change.
I suppose that costs money as well, right? And sometimes you're just trying to do things at the cheapest or the most economical way.
Exactly. And if you have a supportive government, then you can actually help to influence that change.
Which you have.
Exactly.
Great. Now that is all very positive, I must say, and I really appreciate the work that you do. And I think it's fantastic that you want to make the forest self-sufficient in financial terms without the grants. I think it is a fantastic plan, and that I hope it works out 100% so that that model can be taken over.
Thank you very much. You're very happy to share our story.
Absolutely.
And as I said, this is about practical. And, Peter, at the end of the day, you need business people to manage projects. This is only a conservation business. There are commercial businesses, there are scientific businesses, there are pharmaceutical businesses, there are manufacturing businesses. What we're running at Iwokrama is a conservation business.
And it's working out so far, right?
It is working. I mean, 30 years of history is a testament to some things that we're doing right.
That's absolutely fantastic. And they can find all the information at Iwokrama.
www.iwokrama.org.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want a little bit more on tourism specifically, it's www.iwokramariverlodge.com.
That is also for the eco lodges, correct?
Correct.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was an absolute pleasure.
I'm looking forward to you visiting us.
I hope so too. I really would look forward to it. I was in Venezuela, and I don't know. I loved it, but I think that Guyana will be a lot better in terms of preserving the environment. And from what I hear from your government side as well, they're really committed to this. And obviously, projects like the one you're doing there in Iwokrama is absolutely fantastic.
Definitely, and thank you again, Peter, for giving us this opportunity and for helping to showcase the work that we're doing here.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All the best. Bye.
That was the podcast with Dane Gobin in Guyana. It was great to have him on the show. I'll put the links for his projects in the show notes. Latest news on the podcast you can find on the website podcasts.earth. Thank you for listening, and please tune in next time to A Travel Companion. That is for the latest news in responsible and sustainable travel.